In the trajectory of your drug-taking career, there comes a point you're entering the dark side. I've absolutely no excuses to fall back on. I take full responsibility for my insane behavior. Came from a loving family, good upbringing, good education, business studies degree. I'm in my 20s, made all this money in the stock market, throwing raves up to 10,000 people, and it just becomes one big ego trip.
What can you make on a party like that if you put in 100 grand?
If you're selling the ecstasy, you can make a lot. So over the years, if you calculate how many pills I brought in, it was well over $10 million worth of pills.
And then the SWAT guys come to get you.
May 16th, 2002, when everything went down, we're in our handcuffs over to Sheriff Joe Arpaio's intake. One of the most dangerous places on earth for anybody. And I was about ready to kill myself at that point, thinking I was never getting out. I'd rather just end my life at this point, and that's what I plan to do.
Wow, but you didn't kill yourself and you kept going.
That was a turning point. Getting pushed to the brink of suicidal insanity crushed the egotistical, narcissistic, hedonistic, party person out of me. So I'm on a mission, just explaining to the kids, you see all these movies, music videos, celebrity addicts that do make that lifestyle look so cool. The fun part goes over to the dark side eventually, and it ends in the prison, death, mental illness. So just conveying that to the young people, hoping that it could save a few lives.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is SHAUN Attwood, the British author, public speaker, and ex-drug kingpin. You left the UK for America as a broke graduate and within a decade became a stock market millionaire. Living a double life, you soon became massive in the rave scene in America, distributing millions of dollars of ecstasy in competition with the mafia mass murderer Sammy the Bull Gravano. In May 2002, you were arrested and faced a 200-year prison sentence in America's deadliest lockup, where you navigated horrific conditions and gang violence. There, you read over 1,000 books on psychology and philosophy to better understand human nature and your addictive personality. Today, you're banned from America for life and travel the world speaking to audiences about your experience in jail and the consequences of crime. SHAUN, welcome to London Real.
Thank you for having me on, Brian. I love this studio. Great backdrop.
Thank you very much, man. You're dressed for success. I like it, man. Looking good. Wow, man. Like, where to start? I followed your story. There's so many lessons, and that's what I want people to try to take away, the things you learned along the way and how certain things happened. But it feels like you lived many different lives, like 6 different incarnations, really.
I've used up all my 9 lives, I think.
Yeah. I mean, before we jump into it, do you ever wonder what made you kind of do these crazy things? Because it's not a normal person that pursues all of these things. Have you ever said, like, did I get hit on my head as a baby? Or, do you have a weird personality that likes to push the envelope? Because so many intense situations, I mean, you basically put yourself into and kept into those things.
I've absolutely no excuses to fall back on. I take full responsibility for my insane behavior. Came from a loving family, good upbringing, good education, business studies degree, made all this money in the stock market. What I lacked was emotional maturity and common sense. I'm in my 20s, I've come from a little town, a chemical manufacturing town, and now I'm the man in Arizona, throwing raves up to 10,000 people. And it just becomes one big ego trip.
Wow, but you were always driven. You always wanted more somehow.
Yeah, I'm an extreme workaholic.
Where did that come from?
When I was a kid, I showed an aptitude for economics. And my teacher, Mr. Dillon, would give me classes on my own. And he'd explain all the numbers in the Financial Times. I was only 14. And when I was 16, I was confident enough to make my first investment. Borrowed £50 off my nan, invested it in British Telecom. It doubled right away. That was when Maggie Thatcher was privatising everything. So I'm telling everyone in my hometown then, I'm going to go to America, make $1 million, fly you guys over. And that's what I eventually did. Flew all my mates over to Arizona.
Wow. And why Arizona? Why go there to be a stockbroker? Why not the city of London? Why not Wall Street?
Because as a kid, I would visit my aunts in Arizona. And coming from the Northwest, it's quite cold and rainy. And Arizona, the planes coming into land. You see all the swimming pools in people's backyards. The sun's always out. They hear the English accent. They roll out the red carpet. And when I was 16, my aunt, she changed my date of birth in my passport, so I was 21, took me out nightclubbing, and she's introduced me to all these American women as Paul McCartney's nephew.
Oh my God.
So I'm thinking, I want some of this when I finish university, and that's what I did.
Wow. All right. So
Yeah.
that was the oasis for you. You knew people there.
Yeah.
For you, that was the dream.
That was the American dream.
Okay. Now, there's not a lot of stockbroking places in Arizona last time I checked. How did you find one and how did that happen?
So I wanted to be an investment analyst, and I did originally apply to places in London. It didn't go anywhere. I like crunching the numbers and looking at the charts and all that kind of stuff and doing the research. But when I got to Arizona in 91, because there is a lot of money in Phoenix and Sun City, big retirement community in Sun City. I don't know how it is now, but there were a lot of stock brokerage outfits in central Phoenix, handling those clients' money. And it sounds fancy to people, stockbroker, but if you've watched Wolf of Wall Street, you know it's just glorified telesales. I had to call 500 numbers a day. And I was in an outfit that was just like Wolf of Wall Street. We had 24-foot curly cords. Pacing brokers make more sales. We had mirrors. Smile and dial, you will make more sales. We had these business meetings where you're only as big as your numbers are on this board for the month. If you're calling your wife, if you're calling your girlfriend, you're losing sales. Lunch is for wimps. If you're out at lunch, other brokers are calling your clients. It was proper drill sergeant mentality.
I love it. I love these guys.
I'm fresh out of uni.
Okay.
They put me on this quad called the criminal quad, not with the rookies, hard as core looking people. One of them was an ex-Vietnam vet, and he would just have flashbacks and start kung fu kicking the area around him. Another one, top salesman, he had like a bottle of vodka in his briefcase at all times, hardcore alcoholic. And another one had just got out of prison, and he was telling his clients he'd been in hospital for 2 years fighting cancer, and he was calling people from lists of people who'd had cancer.
Wow.
So these guys were called a criminal quad, and I'm just in there, this shy, fresh out of uni person, and these guys absolutely schooled me on all of the sales techniques. So in the beginning, it's commission only. I've only got my student credit card to live off. I'm worried I'm going to have to come home, down to living off cheese on toast and bananas. But 5 years in, I was grossing $500,000 a year. Got my own staff secretary, but that's at the point then where I'm thinking, do I want to be in the rat race? Got to be in the office for the 6 o'clock in the morning sales meeting, or start making money from the party scene, and greed and ego took over.
Okay, so 6 a.m. because Wall Street opens at 9:30, so
Exactly.
you're in early.
Yeah.
Were these guys ex-Wall Street or somewhere in California to yell all that stuff? This bucket shop must have had some experience.
So there was a lot of regional brokerages, and they had head offices in Florida, Colorado, and I kind of worked my way out of the lowest level bucket shop to more of a respectable regional brokerage by the end of it.
Okay.
That cleared through Bear Stearns.
Okay.
Were you involved with Bear Stearns back then?
I mean, yeah, I did business with Bear Stearns as like a counterparty. So until they went bankrupt, right, in '08 or something, right? So,
Yeah.
But those guys are pretty hardcore as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you're doing that. You're working the phones, but you're making good money. You invested some of that in tech stocks.
Yes.
So you got that million in your early 20s, then, right?
Yeah. Well, no, sorry, late 20s. My
Late
goal
20s.
was I watched Wall Street. I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. So that's what I did.
That's what Bud Fox says, right?
Yeah.
I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30.
Yeah.
Such a great movie, man. I try to watch it as often as I can.
Greed is good.
It's good. All right, so you get there. You're the stockbroker. You're probably, I mean, cold calling isn't in your nature. I mean, you're more of a shy guy by nature and a number cruncher.
Yeah, but you have to call 500 numbers a day. 99 point whatever % are telling you to F off. And it breaks you in.
Right. Okay. So you toughened up.
You've got to toughen up or you perish.
Okay. All right.
Nothing was going to stop me conquering the world at that age.
All right. So you're still, you have a lot of fire in you. You really are motivated.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you fly your mates in like you said you were going to do? And
I did. And that was what led to the foundation for the criminal enterprise.
okay. So you start partying.
Yeah.
Was there a party scene there in Phoenix, or you just found it? Was a rave scene?
There was a
starting to happen?
fledgling rave scene.
Okay.
And because I had a lot of money, I was just showing off, giving out pills for free to my mates. The ravers were calling me the Bank of England. That was my nickname.
Why'd they call you that?
Because they knew I was in the stock market guy and had all this money. And they were coming to me to ask me to invest in their raves.
Okay.
So that's kind of how it started to come together.
All right.
But I
What
flew.
does it cost to put on a rave? 5,000, 10,000, more maybe.
Biggest one that we put on was called Orgasmic Bliss. It cost 100 grand.
100 grand. Okay.
5 stages out on Bumblebee Ranch.
Okay.
Yeah, but 10, 20, 30 grand for a lower level one.
What can you make on a party like that if you put in 100 grand?
If you're selling the ecstasy, you can make a lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's where the profits are.
that's where the profits are.
Okay.
But what happened was, around that time when I was still a broke and about to move over to the underworld, I flew my best mate over from England, Wildman, this huge guy who was in prison in this country. And we were best mates from childhood.
Okay.
So in my idealistic mind, I'm thinking, I need to get him out to America so he won't go back to prison and get him a job as a wrestler. So I rented him.
Because he's big.
Yeah.
How big is he so people should know?
He's presently 6'2" and about 26 stone.
Which in pounds is 270 pounds?
14, is it, per stone?
Yeah, okay.
Something like that.
All right, so 300 some pounds.
And not a muscle head. He's got the physique of a bear. When he actually was on the run in Mexico, they said the Mexicans would kill him. But they respected him. They called him El Oso, the bear, because of his fighting style. So when Wildman flew over, I rented him a house by the George and Dragon British pub in Central Phoenix, thinking he would just go and have drinks with the expats and he'd chill out and he won't get any trouble. So a month or so into his stay in this property, me and my girlfriend go over one night and we knock on the door and a bunch of Mexicans answer and I say, "Where's Peter?" They're like, "What?" I said, "Where's Peter?" They're like, "No pizza, we don't want a pizza." "No, where's Peter? He lives here." And they all pull guns out. And then me and my girlfriend are like backpedaling across the street. And Wildman, Peter, comes bouncing over the road, laughing. He's got this really deep demonic laugh. He's like, "Don't worry about them. They're the local crack dealers. They like to move around a lot. The guy at the back is their Colombian boss. He wants to invest in the stock market. And because they like to move around a lot, I've rented them this place and I've moved into theirs. And they're buzzing because I can do $100 crack rock in one breath. They're giving me all this free crack." So he's just like staying up for days now on crack and crystal meth. And he gets moved around various properties and we end up in Tempe in this massive apartment complex.
And you're no longer stockbroking now?
I'm still a stockbroker.
You are?
Still stockbroking. And this
Okay.
was the experiment now with the first batch of pills to be sold.
Okay.
Because he's in this apartment. I can only get 50 to 100 ecstasy from the local dealers.
Okay, this is local dealers in Arizona.
in Arizona.
And what's the ecstasy scene like at this point? It's illegal because
Yes.
it was legal until the late 80s in America, right? It was big in Dallas, I think, is
Yes.
where it was, and then they made it illegal, and then rave kind of grew out of it. So this is early 90s? No, late 90s.
This is now 96, 97.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's getting popular.
It's getting popular, but it's hard to get.
Okay.
So it's going for $25, $30 a pill.
Okay, gotcha.
So all these people are coming to these little apartment parties. And I'm seeing the potential to sell ecstasy. So I end up finding out where the local dealers are getting the pills from. They're getting them from this surfer gangster guy out of LA, who I'd happened to have a situation with at a after party about a year before all this went down. He was threatening some girls I was with from Arizona. He was high on crystal meth. And I grabbed him by the balls. And I was feeling like, I'm not a tough guy, don't get the wrong
You just
impression
grabbed him
here.
by the balls, you must be tough.
I was on crystal meth and GHB at the time, which
Okay.
gives you false courage.
Okay.
So I grabbed him by the balls. He was surprised. He shut up. So now I'm thinking, right, all right, this transaction's been set up to go and buy 1,000 pills off him. Is he going to get revenge on me for grabbing his balls at this party? Or is he going to do the deal? So I take 2 crews in cars of big guys. I've got Wildman. I've got this other guy called Seth, who's a huge guy. And I've got Acid Joey. Both Seth and Acid Joey are dead right now. More than half of my party friends are dead right now because of the risk-taking lifestyle.
And if you think about your own drug use back then, why were you doing it? Why do you think it was attractive to you?
I don't want to make excuses for my behavior, but years later, I had to go deep inside myself and address the root causes of why I got involved into drugs and crime. And one of the things that the therapist helped me understand was that I almost got beat to death by some drunks when I was a teenager. I just passed my driver's license test, went to fill up my mum's little red car with petrol. Some drunks started to behave abusively towards me, and I thought it was brave to stand up to them, but it was a mistake. They were like big in the 20s, rugby player size. Got me on the floor, started kicking me in the head, kicking me in the body. One pulls out an iron bar, just bam, knocks me in the teeth, actually, knocking pieces of my teeth out. And all I can do is just lie there like this, in the fetal position. My whole body's going warm and numb. It got to the point where I couldn't feel the pain anymore. So I thought they'd stop hitting me. So I opened my eyes and they're still like bam, bam, hitting me. I couldn't understand why I couldn't feel the pain. I thought to myself, I started shitting myself. Honestly, I thought I was getting killed. And but I went unconscious and woke up in this pool of blood. And they smashed the car windows and my vision was blurred. I managed to drive home. Parents took me to hospital. All that's broken was my teeth. So I've got these nice veneers right here. Wow. But after that, I wouldn't go out and dance. I wouldn't talk to women. Too self-conscious. And I was really this introverted, shy person. And then the rave scene began in Manchester and Liverpool. It just hit like boom all over the country. Took ecstasy. I wouldn't stop dancing, hugging complete strangers all night long, talking to women, and it transformed me. Now, that might sound like an advertisement for ecstasy, but what actually happened was drugs became my crutch. You start out and it gets you this high and the pleasure's high, and the pain is low, but that reverses over time. So for over 10 years, I'm doing more and more drugs, mixing my drugs up, doing harder drugs. Always trying to get back to that early feeling, but I'm getting more and more addicted until I cross over into the dark side of drugs and all that shit hits the fan.
And you can never get back to those first few ecstasy feelings, right? I've heard some scientists say that over time you build up some type of an immunity to it, that you can never actually continue taking it and get those same highs, even if you wait in between.
The very first time you take it, it's just like your system's just a virgin and it's just like mind-blowing. But then the pain of the side effect just rises a slight little bit every more time. And the pleasure incrementally goes down, tiny, tiny bit until they eventually cross. And I only learned this in jail because the guys in jail were at the end of that road of drug use. 2/3 had hepatitis C from sharing dirty needles. 90% were injecting heroin and crystal meth. It was really sad. Yellow jaundice skin, teeth rotting out. Now, it costs $30,000 to treat hepatitis C interferon. If the jail treated them all, the jail would go bankrupt. They would rather you just die, get a healthy prisoner on that bunk, because they get $50,000 per prisoner to house you. That's how they make their profits. So they'd say to the guys that were dying from this, you know, well, if they sued in court and got the treatment awarded to them in court, which takes years anyway, and your liver's going out by then. Some of the guys who'd sued in court and won those cases and were eligible for the treatment, the jail would then say to them, there's just one more requirement now for you to get this treatment. Stop taking the heroin. And some of them would just choose to take the heroin and die. And that's how I saw the sadness of addiction and how the pain can rise way above the pleasure and you can't stop.
Right. What's the pain when you taking ecstasy? Like,
In the very beginning,
yeah.
The pain was having to take a break from dancing to go to the toilet.
Right. So there is pain with an ecstasy, with a drug
First
like ecstasy?
time,
Right.
it doesn't. The pain does not register.
Right.
This is what I have to explain to school kids.
Okay.
I do talks in schools across the country, and when you first take drugs, it's just fun. That's all you see. The pain is not going to register, but they're putting themselves on that road of drug use, which is eventually going to take them to a place where that pain is going to be rising. And if they get addicted, they can't stop. And now that's not to say that most people who try drugs are going to end up there. They're not. Most people who try weed, who try ecstasy, are going to go on to have completely normal lives and may be able to do it in moderation. But it's people like me that have got addictive personalities.
And me.
We're going to self-destruct at some point,
Right.
maybe even die.
Right. Okay. And with ecstasy, like the downside of that is the next day you're completely flat. Your dopamine systems are all kind of just tapped out and gone, and you can never reach that high. And it does lead for you to other stronger drugs.
Yes, and I managed that through Xanax.
Okay.
I would not have that come down. I would just take Xanax, wake up as crisp as a baby. If I needed my energy, get on some crystal meth, get on some GHB. It just comes to the point where you're managing your whole life through pharmaceuticals.
Okay. And do you ever think about why those drugs attracted you? Because like when I look at my history with alcohol and drug use, I think I was trying to get out of my own head that was constantly pushing me to do more. How come you're not good enough, Brian? You got to work harder. You got to get more. I think I was somehow taking a break from myself that was so demanding.
I see what you mean. People like to let off the steam of the workday, go to the pub.
Or just to get away from me for a second, to not be constantly worrying about what I'm doing or not doing or being critical, and just take a break for just a bit of peace because I couldn't get away from myself.
I had social anxiety.
Okay, all right.
And
And you wanted that human connection and you couldn't get it without the drugs.
at the peak of my drug taking, people thought, you know, this guy's so powerful, you know, he's got running a criminal organization, hundreds of people working for him, he's got his bouncers armed to the teeth and all this stuff. As soon as I was off the drugs, I was back to that shy, anxious person who didn't want to be around people. They just saw me on drugs, and that put this tough mask on me, but it was fake.
Got it. Interesting. All right, so we fast forward a little bit. So going back, Wild Man comes over.
Yeah.
He's like your alter ego. You're kind of like the brains and he's the brawn, right? And you feel better with him around because he's the muscle, he's the scarier guy, and crazy as well.
Crazy, anything can happen around him, and he introduces me to all the people in the underworld. So wherever you house Wild Man, and he's been housed in Mexico, LA, you name it, he takes control of all of the street people right away. They all just start worshiping him. Even in LA, after a couple of days, Sunset Boulevard, dodgy pink hotel, street people are coming all night long, just dropping off free drugs for him and everything. He ended up just staying there with the street people. So we put him in this apartment complex, Rancho Murrieta, Tempe, Arizona. Massive complex. You know, Tempe's a university town, massive demand for ecstasy. And he moves in with some people at home behind the rent. I take care of that. Throws these parties. Typical party in here is he's got like Native American, transgender street prostitutes. Gangbangers are in there, you know, armed with guns. Russian mafia, Italian mafia, drag queens, striptease dancers, and this is just non-stop. This is how he lived, just non-stop.
And everybody's on pills and everyone's having a good time.
And they're telling each other their life stories.
Right.
Yeah, so it was through him opening this door into this underworld, to me, of the night people, that I saw the business potential and made my connections that were necessary to lay the foundation for the criminal enterprise. Wildman, he was so insane, his behavior, he got deported multiple times and had to smuggle him back into the country, sending like Mission Impossible style teams of people through Canada and Mexico to bring him back into the country. The judge had ruled that he was a menace to society and permanently banned him. But I kept smuggling him back in. So he was coming and going over the years, but the enterprise was building and building and building.
Okay.
Through these other people that.
And so when do you decide you're going to go full on into the ecstasy business and the party business and leave stockbroking behind? And was it a financial decision, or was it about power and fun and acceptance?
Power, fun, ego, acceptance, the women, everything.
Okay. You're the man.
If you're the man, if you're Mr. Cool Guy, you're throwing parties for up to 10,000 people. You know, you're in charge of the VIP area. People are coming up to you all night long, thank you for the pills and the parties. My ego was as big as the Grand Canyon back then, let's put it that way. Yeah, and I was just feeding it. I surrounded myself with people who were equally insane as myself. That's why, more than half of them are dead now. We were all reinforcing each other's crazy behavior, and there was nobody to put the brakes on. We're all trying to outdo each other on, on our bizarre stunts.
And in a way, you're also throwing these rave parties that have all these good vibes and happiness.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like you guys are dealing crack. That would have been a different vibe, right? Because then you just would have been hardcore drug dealers competing with other people. You're like, having fun and telling yourself you're having fun.
It wasn't like Scarface. It was cuddle puddles and Vicks inhalers.
What's a cuddle puddle?
Where a bunch of ravers are sat on the floor in a circle, massaging each other's shoulders.
Okay, gotcha. Cuddle puddle. I didn't rave enough, obviously. Oh my gosh. And what was the other thing you said? Vixen?
Vicks inhalers. So if you're on ecstasy and you do the Vicks inhaler thing, it's like,
Okay, gotcha.
I almost have an orgasm.
All right. So, all right. And look, I mean, like, as a drug, ecstasy can be beneficial to some people. I mean, PTSD sufferers use it. I've had Rick Dublin here from MAPS, and they're using it for couples therapy and PTSD. And I mean, like, it's hard to overstate that in limited doses, there are some good things that can happen if you don't go down the addiction road. And
I concur. Trump should give me a pardon and allow me back in. No, just a joke, because like I said, I'm in drugs education. It's what it leads to, the lifestyle.
Okay.
And it's the lifestyle that's more addictive than the drugs and the cash. I've written extensively about Pablo Escobar. They estimate he was worth about 30 billion. His brother Roberto said, look, why don't we just buy our own island, kick back, we won't get wiped out by our rivals, we won't end up doing life in prison. Escobar said, I'm running a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. My money puts the president of Colombia in power. I've got thousands of people working for me. And you want me to kick back on an island on a deck chair, sipping a cocktail, you're out of your mind. And because of that decision, he lost his life early. But it's it's addiction to the lifestyle is more powerful than anything.
wow. Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. All right, so you're getting into this underworld, you're throwing the parties, you got Wild Man who's introducing you to all sorts of types that are now you're thinking about, I'm gonna build this enterprise. You wanna go big because why not? And it feels good, and you've got the ego and all the connections. Talk to me about how it starts to get big, because you now start needing more people in your organization. You need to supply the stuff, you need security, you need to worry about law enforcement. What are those first couple of years like?
Okay.
I'm guessing this stuff,
Security came through Wild Man's apartment parties. I was at one of them. I was supplying the ecstasy, and a guy comes in, Mexican-American guy, long dark hair, prison tattoos on his arms, ruggedly handsome, and his name's G-Dog. And he's supplying the coke and the weed. And he's got this serious aura about him, like, prison toughness. So we're just chilling out. People are listening to music. I think we're playing some tongue or some European trance. And a cop walks in and he goes, I could smell weed from outside. Nobody moved.
Walks in full uniform, the cop.
Yeah. Tempe police, walks in. And G-Dog just whips out his gun, points it at the cop's face and says, "The only one who's not leaving is you, motherfucker. Everybody run." I've never seen anything this heavy before in my life. So we all run off into the night. Now, this apartment complex, Rancho Murrieta, has got massive buildings, huge buildings. And we've kind of got operations in various buildings. Some people holding the drugs, some people selling the drugs over here. So I go into one of those apartments, police sirens, everything coming. We're like, all right, we're crapping ourselves. What should we do? Should we flush our drugs? Will he have remembered everyone in that apartment? There's no way he could remember that. We're all having this discussion, basically, what should we do? And then all of a sudden, bang, 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 bang on the French window. Oh shit, is it the cops or what? We look out and it's G-Dog. He's like, "Let me in." Now, I learned some very important lessons because of G-Dog. He comes in and he says, "The cops can't get a warrant that fast. Turn the lights off, turn the TV off, nobody make a fucking sound, nobody answer the door." And people are still whining and thinking, should we flush the drugs or what? He was right, that's what we did. Cops knocked on the door, they went next door, they kept going on the way. And he said, I actually took him to another property in Phoenix. I said, "Look, because you're so hot here, come to one of my other properties." And then he said, "Because you and your friends protected me, me and my brothers have got your back." I had no idea what that meant. And it was a few months later, he goes, "My brothers want to meet you. One brother wants to meet you." So he's got a house in Tempe, the brother. There's all these cars, these classic lowrider cars outside. And brother answers the door, short guy, bald head, wife beater, vest. And he's looking up at me like, who is this guy? And he hears my accent. He's like, "Damn, you talk funny." He's like, "Come, I guess you must be from England." He's like, "Come in and meet my homeboys." So go into the living room and there's all these just massive Mexican-American guys, like steroided out, prison tats, wife beater vests, shorts down below the knees, slabs of coke, slabs of crystal meth, all these different weighing scales, various guns, like AKs, mini machine guns. And they're all just looking at me like, I don't belong there, like they want to eat me. So I'm thinking, oh shit, my heart's gonna jump out my chest. Big one swings a spoonful of coke in my face, like, "Snort this." I look at G-Dog, he's like, "Yeah, snort that." If you don't snort it, they think you're undercover or you're a snitch. They're gonna take you out to the desert. So I'm looking around the room, and Nat Geo did a good version of this in my Banged Up Abroad episode, but they condensed two scenes. They put these guys in LA, which didn't actually happen. It happened in Tempe. I'm looking around the living room, and they got the biggest TV I've ever seen. They got a little TV showing all the comings and goings on the street. We're on top of the big TV. I do a double take. I'm thinking, all right, I've seen one of them before in a Rambo movie. They got a rocket-propelled grenade launcher on top of the TV. I still don't know who they are until years later, but I know they're serious. I end up in business with them. I'm going over to that house, and every time I go over there, there's that lethal atmosphere. I'm in and out. But they said to me, "Look, if you ever get in trouble, if you get pulled over leaving here, the cops do not have a right to search your vehicle. Tell them you're in a hurry, they don't have probable cause, keep going. Worst case scenario, if they force a search or arrest you, this is the lawyer we want you to call." And years later, when everything went down, that was the lawyer that I called. And I'd probably still be in prison right now if it wasn't for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So these guys we found out later, who were they?
So I'm taking G-Dog home one night.
Right.
Years later now, after I've met them. The whole neighborhood is blacked out. The cops have got light ones and they're guiding traffic with the light ones. As we pull up to his brother's house, they're all being brought out by a federal SWAT team in handcuffs. And if we'd have got there a bit earlier, we would have got caught up in that raid. But it was news headlines that night. Leaders of the new Mexican mafia, most powerful criminal organization in Arizona. They were trying to assassinate witnesses, police, the head of the prison system, judges, you name it. And it had all the mugshots on the news. And they were the guys who had been dealing with over those years in that house, yeah.
Wow. And was it always tense with them, or did you guys ever?
Oh God, there was the night of the ecstasy party. So, They said, we're going to do ecstasy. Most of us for the first time, our women are coming over. I brought them the pills. I get a call in the middle of the night. We need more pills, we've run out. Have you ever taken ecstasy and you remember your first time?
Yes. So they want a second one.
So they're all in there like these big, smiley, sweaty, overgrown teddy bears, picking me up, bear hugging the life out of me, trying to tell me their life stories and shit. I know. We love your pills, England, man. Yeah. That was the only time that they were ever smiley like that. Every other time they had that lethal look,
And so
look
you
about them.
did business with them, which meant you sold them pills and they distributed them for you? Or they provided protection or money? Or
They got stuff off me and I got stuff off them.
Okay.
Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
Did you guys ever just stop yourself and say, this is really uncanny that this kid from England is hanging out with these tatted out Mexican mafia
All right.
guys?
To an extent, it's a buzz. One of the things that scared me early on, and this is when I was just crossing over from stockbroker to rave and entrepreneur, was in that huge apartment complex I just described, I got a call from a guy who was distributing ecstasy for me called Fish. He called the brokerage and he said, look, I need you and Wildman to get over here right away. I said, all right, cool. Can you tell me what's up? He says, I can't say on the phone. So I went to Wildman's place in Central Phoenix, and the local street people there told me he was out debt collecting for the Colombian crack lord with the other big guy, Seth, and they were my two main goons. So I couldn't access them. So I went over to this guy's house, Fish, in Tempe, his apartment, sorry. And I
Alone.
knock on the door, Fish answers. His woman is behind him and she's crying. I'm immediately thinking she's been sexually assaulted. And they want Wildman and Seth to do something about it, find the guy something. So I look at them, I'm like, what's up? And they won't speak, they're like paralyzed with fear. I hear a noise from a back room, an electrical crackling, like zzzz. I'm like, what the hell is that? So they're like, they won't tell me. They say, just go and see for yourself. I walk down the hallway and I open the door. And there's a friend of G-Dog's. Let's call him Alex. And he's an older Mexican guy. He's got gray hair, swept back, very stately, burring about him. And he's overlooking a group of Mexicans who are overlooking on the carpet a naked man who's hogtied. He's got like a rockabilly quiff and a gag. And he's going like this, like a rocking horse on the floor. And he's giving instructions to them in Spanish. They've got cattle prods and they're just periodically electrocuting him. And when they do so, piss is just shooting out of this guy's cock onto the floor. And I can see he's just terrified for his life. So I still don't know what's gone down. Now, I know Alex from G-Dog. I'm all good with him. And he's just like, this is just an average day at Walmart for him. He's just looking at me like this is nothing and smiling with this welcome to the family smile. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I'm in with these guys. I don't want to hang around here. This is way too heavy. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Are they going to kill him or what? I'm shitting myself. Are the police going to come? I've got to get out of here, but I can't just turn around and leave. Then they're going to think I'm a liability and they're going to do something to me, maybe take me out to the desert. So I'm just there for a little bit trying to ascertain what's going on. And Fish tells me, this guy robbed us. I've got your stuff in here. I've got their stuff in here. He came over to buy some stuff. He must have watched the apartment, watched me leave, and came back and robbed us. But I came back and caught him. And I called you because he stole your stuff. I called them because he stole their stuff. And they got here first. I was kind of glad that they got there first. So I talked for a little bit. I say, look, to Alex, I've just come over here in a hurry from my workplace. I could not find Wildman. I couldn't find Seth. We would have done whatever we could to help you. I've got to go back to work. And he was like, just see you later kind of thing. No problem at all. So all the way back to work, I'm haunted by this guy on the carpet. Yeah, he's robbed them, he's done bad, but seeing people suffering like that, it's not in my nature. So I'm thinking, are they going to kill him? What's going to happen? What I found out was they called his friends and they said, look, 10 grand, you got 24 hours or he's dead. And the money was paid and he was released. That was the end of that.
All right, so you start getting used to this whole other side. But it's too late to get out. And you don't want to get out either. You're just riding it.
I don't want to be involved in scenarios like that, but I'm loving being the man.
Okay.
I'm loving the after parties. We're renting villas in the Scottsdale Hilton. Huge, like massive studio area in the middle where we got DJs playing. 2 like end suites on either side with jacuzzis. People, going around naked on roller skates and strippers putting candle wax on people. And we take all the paintings down in this villa, close all the curtains. Every single painting has got a different pile of drugs on it. And this is all free at what I'm paying for my workforce. So you've got a pile of ketamine on one painting, pile of cocaine on another, pile of crystal meth on another, pile of ecstasy on another, Xanax, assorted Mexican pharmaceuticals. And these parties are going on for days. And when it comes time to go back to the reception and pay for the renewal, I'm just putting my sunglasses on. I've got my roller boots on. And I'm just skating up to the reception. And this is one of the poshest resorts in Arizona. I'm just skating up to the reception, plonking down $500 cash for another day. And my mind is just, oh man, I can't believe we didn't get busted. Some of the stupid things that we did.
Was that one of the best parties that you went to?
Those after parties were some of the most insane parties of my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I almost died a couple of times as well.
From what? Overdose?
So I mentioned all the different paintings we have with the drugs.
Yeah.
Someone said, let's just make a painting and get like a spoonful of drugs from every painting and just make a mountain of mixed drugs on this. I'm already high on crystal meth and GHB and ecstasy, and I'm like, yeah. So showing off.
GHB is the date rape drug.
Well, it's called a date rape drug,
Right.
but that's what the media have labeled it.
Okay.
Bodybuilders used it because it puts you in a deep sleep and it promotes relaxation and muscular growth.
Okay.
So
But you took it to counteract the crystal meth.
I took it myself because it mellowed me out, and I really enjoyed sex on it.
Okay. But would you forget things or forget who you were or?
Okay, in the trajectory of your drug-taking career, there comes a point, and there's no going back once it reaches this point, where you do start to forget what you did the previous day. And that's, like I said, you're entering the dark side. But I'm going to give you a story on that in a second. Let me just go back to the paintings.
Please.
So showing off now, I just shove a bill in my nose, and instead of taking out a line to do of this mixed mountain, I just shoved a whole bill into the mountain and snort. And I don't know what happened with time or anything because nothing made sense anymore. I went unconscious, but I could see something that I had this experience whereby I could see like stars in the sky and I was talking to them and I didn't know who I was anymore. And I was shitting myself. I didn't know who I was, where I was, how I was going to get home or anything. After going round and round with the stars in the sky for so long, I started to hear voices in the room. I couldn't move my body. I was completely paralyzed and blind. In the beginning, the voices scared me, but then I heard some of the people who worked for me who I was very close to, and one of those managed to get me into a bathroom and start talking to me. And it got to the point where I could speak, but I was blind. I was like thinking, oh my God, is my sight ever going to come back? And she's talking to me and comforting me. And in the end, I did recover, but they said I just looked dead. And that was just one occasion. I instructed my friends, if I overdose, just put me in a back room. Don't call the cops. Don't call an ambulance because you'll all get busted. I didn't care if I lived or died. I didn't think I was going to see past 30. And that was just one example of many, where people said I was flopping like a fish on the floor, like I needed a heart thing. Yeah.
So you really didn't think you were going to live past 30?
No,
And you didn't care
didn't care.
because you're doing drugs all the time and living
Doing
this
so
life.
many drugs, living that life, just like fuck the world, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Just like only youth can do. So you're late 20s now.
So yeah, I'm getting towards my late 20s. Oh, the other story about memory loss.
Yeah.
I went to a rave, went to an after party. I'm so high, put my head through a plasterboard wall, missing a 9-inch nail that would have gone right into my skull. All I remember is waking up the next day, my friends have took me home covered in puke. Vomit all over the carpet, vomit all over the bed. The vomit on the carpet has changed the colour of the carpet. So I call out a specialty carpet cleaner to get this stain out of the carpet. He's like this on the floor, trying to scrub this thing out, and he's looking up at me, shaking his head. Sean, whatever chemicals you had in your body are so strong, I can't get them out of your carpet. But there was no wake-up call till the SWAT team came.
Okay. All right, now let's talk about that before the SWAT team comes. So you're getting bigger and bigger as an empire.
Yeah.
And you can no longer source your ecstasy from local sources. So you have to start going international. Is that right?
So the guy that I grabbed his balls, I went out to his apartment in West Hollywood.
Right.
2 cars of people were watching it to see if he wasn't even home. Thinking, all right, the cop's going to come. Is he setting up a deal? Is he going to jack me for grabbing his balls? All this stuff. I go in there. He eventually shows up with some surfer gangster dudes. Have you ever watched that movie Point Break?
Yeah.
People like that.
Okay.
Thinking, oh shit, these guys are going to jack me. But I've got Wild Man on standby. He's ready to steam in within 10 minutes if I don't come back out. So I go in and I say to him, I've got the money. Have you got the pills? Yeah. And he goes in the back and brings out this massive bag of, it might have been Mitsubishis. And
how much are you paying for these at this point?
well, I'm paying top dollar at this point for 1,000, something like 12.
$12.
It's going to go way down over time.
Okay.
I say to him, can I try one first? He goes, yeah. Would you like me to get you a drink? I said, no. I'm just going to chew it because I know how ecstasy tastes. He's looking at me like I'm crazy as I'm chewing this thing. And it tasted spot on. A good pill should be 100, 125 milligrams of MDMA and clay, like usually a beige, white, speckled press. That's usually a good pill. And
you can taste it.
I could taste it, yeah. I could taste it. But I did so many pills. I was doing 20, 30 per weekend at one point.
Wow.
Weekend? Yeah. Meanwhile, man trying to outdo each other. Again, just showing off because you can only get so high on ecstasy. Complete waste of money, really. Don't try that at home.
Okay. So you chew it and you spit it out.
No, I was just chewing it.
Okay.
And I want to get high, so I'm eating it. Gonna drive back to Arizona, listening to DJ Sasha, got high on ecstasy, but I managed to be able to drive around on ecstasy. Again, don't do that at home. Completely irresponsible. So, lucky I didn't die through a car crash or something.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.